Welcome, folks, to our very special two-part episode of Macabre. Uh, I'm joined here with my host with the most coffee stain, Carl. And we've got a two-part episode. Why don't you fill us in a little bit on what's going on?
All right, thanks a lot, stale Java Jacob. Making fun of my coffee. Whatever.
No, it's just the stains that are you.
Right. Well, if you guys remember on our last episode, we were talking about the Harvey Casino bombing, which we're just getting into how he made the bomb, why, what happened, everything like that. We were kind of talking about how his Big John, his gambling obsession was starting to get to the point where he bought, what was it, like 2,100 pounds of beef, like two cows, like 3 pigs.
He basically bought enough food for his sons to live for like 3 years without ever having to.
Because they were still in high school.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't need to be home to feed you guys. Here's this.
Just kind of like a crazy person.
So, yeah.
Big John, at this point, is not a criminal yet, but he was like a survivor of the Siberian gulag, where he chopped down trees for years, I guess. And he's a millionaire back in America, living the American dream. But then he threatens this casino with a massive bomb, like 1,000 pounds of TNT in this casino, and gives one of the most legendarily long and specific, like, extortion letters that I've ever heard of.
Which we read the full extortion letter on part 1.
Yeah.
So if you want to hear that, I'm not reading that again.
Yeah.
If you want to hear that, go ahead and go back. So, and where we left off, Big John, his late wife, he sold her restaurant, and or no, he didn't sell it. It burned down, and he got $300,000 from the insurance payout. So
shady.
Yes. So, he was paid out the $300,000, which he lost in whole playing blackjack at the Harvey Casino.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money.
Not good at gambling, apparently.
Yeah.
Better at starting companies than he is at
keeping the funds.
Yeah.
So, he sold his estate to his girlfriend for a fraction of the cost so she could keep it and he wouldn't lose it. So he's still living in the same home, but he kind of like found a way out of that like losing his house from his debts and things from, the debt collectors. He would end up bouncing $15,000 in checks at Harvey's by 1979.
Wow.
The debt collector showed up to his house and he promised he'd be by within a month to pay off at least $1,000 on his payment, but he didn't. He actually went and bought a condo with some of his money right down the road from Harvey's so he could be closer to the casino so he could gamble more.
I guess that's what they mean when it's like you're a gambling addict.
Yeah, gambling is a very serious addiction.
Yeah.
So.
And it appears that we're dealing with one of them people.
Yes. At this point, after he bought the condo, his health was starting to go down and decline with the rest of his life. Everything was declining for this dude. Because remember, at the beginning, he was having a pretty great life. He was pretty cool. Pilot, flying around, millionaire, lots of big toys.
Scaring his children. With his pilot antics.
Yeah, Jacob and I's mother was also a pilot in the Air Force. And she flew those little small planes as well. And I just want to say shout out to my mom for never flying us in the back and doing like spinning donuts and
Mm-hmm.
crash landing on job sites and things like that.
For sure.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
So at this point, he had ulcers so bad that they required multiple surgeries. In the spring of 1979, he was diagnosed with abdominal cancer, yet he continued to keep gambling.
Mm.
Hospitals ain't gonna hold him back.
Yeah.
And he spent 2 or 3 weeks a month in his condo, going to the casino and blowing all of his fortune. By the end of the year, he actually showed up to the Harvey, wanting his same high roller treatment. He brought like his girlfriend, and or another woman. It wasn't his girlfriend, and he wanted his typical suite that he always got, which was 1017.
The high roller suite.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for New Year's Eve. He was like, I'm going to take you out. We're going to have the best room. We're going to have a fun night gambling at the casino all night. It's going to be great.
Mm-hmm.
They initially told him he could have his room because nobody wanted it. And then somebody came in that pays more, and he got the room. And they came back to him and said, sorry, Big John, we're going to give you this other room. You can't have this one.
I can't imagine that sat well with Big John.
That did not feel good. He likes to feel important.
He's like,
So-
I'm gonna blow this casino up.
So when they told him no, they put him in an embarrassingly small room, and which his date told him, I thought you was supposed to be a big shot, and you're not. Upon waking up on the first morning, January 1st, 1980, in a room in the Harvey Hotel that was so small he could barely walk around the bed, John Burgess thought to himself, I'm 58 years old, I'm terminally ill, I'm broke, twice divorced, and now I've been humiliated. Like, I have nothing else to lose. So I'm going to blow them up. And this is when the wheels started turning for the idea of him building this bomb.
It's like in Office Space with the stapler. You know, it's like,
This is my stapler.
yeah, burn down the building.
Just carrying his little stapler around. So Johnny didn't hear any word back from his dad after his little brother knocked on his door for months. And one day in June of 1980, so 6 months after, when Jimmy called him and said that their dad found all the dynamite they needed, all that was left to do was to steal it. Johnny was like, okay.
That's all?
Yeah.
Just gotta steal it.
The boys reluctantly agreed to help him. Johnny was no stranger to crime. He was really familiar with theft and just all kinds of petty crime, you know. Drugs, theft, things like that.
Gotcha.
The two sons also thought that, like, nothing would actually come of this. Like, let's entertain our old man. He's dying of cancer, but this isn't going to be that crazy. So Johnny had the truck. He had a white van. And he drove his van over and picked up Big John and Jimmy, and they made their way over to Helms Creek hydroelectric construction site. This is the site where they were going to make a colossal underground engineering project that required a lot of explosives. Big John had already cased the place out multiple times undetected, and security wasn't really high because they were like, why would we have to really secure this place?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But when the three Burgess men arrived around midnight on June 6th, the site was full of people. Like, so they must have been doing a certain project, like, right then.
Yikes.
Yoinks. So they got scared and they left.
Okay.
A week later, they came back, alive with new courage for the mission, like probably plotting all week for different ideas of how to do this. That's So Johnny picked them up in the van. And then this time, a little bit before they got to the job site, he actually covered his plates with fake plates that he made out of like construction paper and duct tape and taped them onto his plates, in case anyone saw it.
Cute.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It's really. They get away with a lot in this story, and this one's just one of the funny ones.
It's only dumb if it doesn't work.
That's
And it apparently
true.
worked. Yeah.
So, so he covered up his plates to disguise their identity.
Mm-hmm.
They pulled onto the site, and this time they put on gloves, and they snuck over to the shack that was labeled explosives. Warning. Or danger explosives. And they crept around the back of the building. They forced open a window. Johnny climbed inside. Then Big John cut the padlock off the door, and they started moving the boxes of dynamite. The boxes were about 50 pounds each and 2 by 1 foot. So not really that big either. The boys started to get nervous because Big John kept saying, "Okay, more, more, more." And they kept just loading more and more and more. It took them an hour. And they ended up having 18 boxes, which turned out to be over 1,000 pounds of TNT.
Which, at that point, it's like, dude, are we, like...
Daddy, why would you do this?
We are about to, like, blow a crater in the world. Like,
yeah. This is supposed to do, like, culverts, like deep
yeah,
things.
it's a ridiculous amount of
I messed up.
freaking TNT. What are you doing?
I messed up. I meant to mute it so I could take a drink without giving some ASMR, but now I'm just messing up. I'm just gonna leave it.
Just leave it. Oh, was it worth it? I hope all that.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry, folks, you don't get to hear her slurp her coffee.
Hopefully they hear it on your mic.
I know I heard it in my ears.
Anyways, they left with over 1,000 pounds of dynamite. It was 18 boxes.
A ridiculous amount of dynamite.
It was $50,000 worth of dynamite.
Hey, did you know that the inventor of dynamite was Alfred Nobel, who also did the Nobel Peace Prize?
I thought you were going to say blew himself up.
Nope.
Well, that's cool. So, where did they put this, all you ask? In the giant walk-in freezer with the lobster and the steers and the, what was it, like 500 pounds of hot dogs?
Yeah.
Or something.
This guy apparently deals in big quantities.
Big John.
Big John with his 5-year supply of hot dogs. It's insane.
That's a lot of hot dogs. That's really gross.
No wonder he got stomach issues.
Yeah. So, with a giant walk-in freezer full of dynamite, Big John had a new purpose in life besides just gambling. And every day he spent welding and soldering. Slowly, his most ingenious invention would come into fruition. 2 weeks later, Johnny went to check on his dad and see what he was up to. He said the workshop was completely chaotic when he came in, stuff everywhere, half-finished project and scattered materials. But in the middle of it all... Oh, shit.
What?
I just went down like 3 pages. Oh my god.
Sorry, folks.
Technical difficulty called I'm a silly goose. I found it. Okay.
I swear one of us is a professional.
It's me. In the middle of the workshop, Covered with a blanket were 2 rectangular boxes welded together from 1/4-inch steel plates.
Mhm.
Even with the steel boxes empty, they were too heavy to lift because they were huge.
Hmm.
The first box was made from the welded steel pieces was a large cavernous rectangle that was large enough to house almost all the stolen explosives and fitted with rubber tires for transport. The second box on top was smaller, just over a foot square and 22.5 inches long. It was designed to be welded to the top of the first box.
Mm.
The smaller box would house the brain of the bomb, the nerve center with the booby traps and the triggers and the different mechanisms that that would make any chances of thwarting the bomb impossible.
Mm.
Big John began describing all of the mechanisms that were installed in the bomb, and Johnny realized that this meant his father's bomb was impossible to disarm, and he did not plan to provide Harvey's with instructions on how to turn it off, even in the event of receiving the ransom. Only stall it long enough to move it to a different location for detonation.
Wow.
So that means he always intended for it to go off. He never intended to give them the key to make it so it didn't explode.
Hmm.
He was like, I'll just help you move it to another spot. So.
Yeah, he's like, this thing's blowing no matter what. It's just where it's gonna explode is the only difference.
Mm-hmm. Big John had put a panel of 28 steel toggle switches numbered and arranged in 5 rows. He told his son that only 3 or 5 of the 28 switches could be used to turn the pendulum circuit on and off. So that's confusing to say.
Sounds like a really crazy bomb this dude built.
Yeah. Flipping any one of the switches could complete a random circuit, though, and the device would explode immediately. Big John spent the summer building the bomb and dolly meant to move it around. Johnny and Jimmy were both in agreement they wanted nothing to do with their dad's extortion plot, but they were also too scared of him to tell him no. Because remember, these guys are babies. They are like 18 and 19.
Oh, I thought you were calling them babies like...
No, they're just like not adults.
Like little cowards.
Well,
their dad is like a Siberian gulag axe wielder, crazy guy.
Remember, he intimidates everyone,
Mm-hmm.
not just his sons that he beat relentlessly their entire childhood.
Do we have any pics of this guy?
We do. I'm going to show you.
Check the gram.
Yeah, I might
because
add him
I
into
want to
the
see
video.
if I feel like I could take this guy. Odds are probably
I
not.
don't. He's got grandpa strength.
Yeah.
And
it sounds like he's got a few screws loose up top. So
I think he's kind of a weird genius.
yeah, you don't want to mess with crazy geniuses that apparently have nothing to lose. This is kind of Walter Whitey, a little Breaking Bad, I get Walter White vibes from this guy.
Yeah, I kind of think he's awesome because he didn't hurt anybody. But I don't think he's awesome because I'm almost positive he hurt his wife.
Yeah. Evidence, leads you to believe.
Yeah.
That maybe.
So Big John spent the summer building the bomb and dolly to move it. The boys were too scared to tell him no. They also had no idea how their dad planned to get this inside the casino without getting caught or raising suspicion, but Big John had already thought that through, and he was going to deliver it straight through the front door.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. If you just do things with confidence, it's amazing how much you could get away with.
My aunt always told me if you act like you're supposed to be there, then nobody usually questions you.
Like, people would probably think it's just some kind of like kitchen gear or something,
Yeah.
Just big stainless boxes.
So, disguised as handyman, they would walk it straight through the front door and pretend it was a new computer equipment being delivered.
Mm.
The bomb would be hidden beneath a piece of fabric with IBM printed on the side. They would roll it in at 5:30 a.m. and set it right down on the second floor where the admin offices and the computers that controlled the slots were. and John would activate the bomb and just leave it there. And he told his sons, just trust me, just trust me.
It's like, Dad, this is getting a little real here.
Yeah.
Like,
2 weeks later, Big John loaded the dynamite into the bomb casings and completed the bomb. A week later, the extortion note was finished. Another week later, on Saturday, August 23rd, Big John called to his sons to practice rolling the device on the cart and move it around so they got used to it so they could push it into Harvey's with no issues.
a little dress rehearsal.
Yeah. The rope snapped
Smart.
during their practice, though, and the device rolled over Johnny's foot, where he abruptly said, I'm not doing it. I'm out.
F this. I'm out.
Screw this. I'm not doing it. I'm done. Not happening. He
You
was
know what?
pissed. I'd be pissed, too, if that rolled over my foot.
I was on the fence
Ow.
about this whole thing. Now you're crunching my foot bones. I'm out. For that reason, I'm out.
That's like when you stub your toe and you want to murder everyone.
Yeah, you just want to, like, burn the world down.
Yeah, and then Jimmy was like, if he's not doing it, I'm not doing it. So I'm out, too.
Mm.
So he's
Big
like,
John.
okay, well, I'm still going to use your truck or your van. Big John told his son, like, I'm still going to use your van because I need it.
Mm.
He's like, fine, but I'm not going to be involved in anything else. So, and he said, if you're not going to help me with the bomb, you guys are going to help me with the money drop.
Mm.
And they were like, fine, but we're not doing this bomb. Then they left, and he came the next day. He got the van, and the bomb was already running. So it was
Yes.
already ticking now. Big John ended up getting Terry Hall and Bill Brown to help the drop because his sons backed out. They arrived to Harvey's. That's annoying.
So are these just like random people or like
These are people that have
coworkers, or
worked for Big John before.
do they know that they're helping him move a bomb or is it like
Well, we'll see.
okay.
So they arrived to Harvey's around 5 a.m., walked over to the back door of the casino, decided they should wait, and this wasn't the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they went to a hotel or a motel where Big John paid for the room, and they decided to get some rest before the real drop. They spent the day at the hotel, got breakfast, drank beer all day. Then at 2:30 a.m. on Tuesday, Big John left the motel carrying a suitcase, walking towards the Tahoe airport. He told Terry and Bill to pick him up there, which was only a 5-minute walk down the road. However, when they went to start the truck, it wouldn't start, so they had to ask for jumper cables from the motel at 2:30 in the morning.
Mm.
A tow truck came and jumped the van, and they got a $100 tip from Big John. On the way to Harvey's, that's like a big tip for somebody to jump your cables.
And in like 1980,
Yeah.
that's big money right there.
Mm-hmm. On the way to Harvey's, they stopped again, changed the license plates, and then got back to the casino at 5 a.m. It was still dark out, but the lights around the building illuminated the parking lot.
Mm.
They unloaded the machine carefully and towed it across to the building from the parking. Under the canopy of the front doors, Terry pushed the dolly while Bill pulled from the front. It was extremely difficult to move. When they walked in, the only man they saw at the front desk got up and walked away. My phone just told me it's my bedtime.
Oh. Jeez.
Yeah, I go to bed early. Okay, so Terry is pushing and Bill is pulling. They walk in and they only see one guy at the front desk, and he pays no mind to them, and he gets up and walks away. So they went through the double doors. Okay, wait a minute. Past the desk and to the elevator that was only 50 feet away. Bill helped get the machine onto the dolly, onto the elevator, and then Terry went on by himself. Why they did this, I'm not really sure. Once off the elevator, Terry kept going. He saw hotel staff that paid him no mind. And he just kept going. He pushed the fake machine into a small waiting area outside the telephone exchange and pulled the cover off. He removed his disguise and put it into a bag like Big John had told him to do. He had concealed the bag, and then he left, taking the stairs. The whole thing had taken about 2 minutes total.
Wow.
To get the whole thing in and drop it and leave, and they were barely seen.
Good for them. I mean, not good for them. I mean, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Close your
So, I was yawning. So.
Bug's gonna fly in there.
Fly out of there.
Yeah.
Because I'm dead.
Because I'm
dead. So the whole thing had taken about 2 minutes. Terry remembers doing these tasks, but his memory is really hazy because of the amount of beer they drank. So he's like, I was like, I don't know, man.
Did we put the half-ton bomb? Like, it's like, man, that's crazy that you would be fuzzy about those details.
I know. The bright Nevada sun peeked over the skyscrapers, giving dawn to the new day. Terry hazily walked around the corner to the stoplight between Harvey's and Harrah's, where he waited for the pedestrian walk light to change. Big John came up behind him, and then they walked together across the parking lot, got in the van, and started driving back to California. On the way back, the men took a stop at a creek to take a leak, but Big John took the dolly out of the back of the car, destroyed it, and threw it into the creek. The men looked at him puzzled, because this was the first time they learned what it was that they just put into Harvey Casino.
So they thought it was computer stuff.
Yeah, they thought, because Big John had hired them for weird odd jobs before, and so this was like nothing. They didn't really suspect anything.
What you doing, Big John? Just destroying this
dolly,
the evidence.
It's just evidence. It's no big deal. Get back in the van.
Take a leak in the creek.
Yeah.
Throw the dolly in the creek.
Back in the van, the men were stunned. All they could do was sit back and hope they didn't get arrested, because they already did it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
If they were smart, they'd go to the authorities straight away. But I guess we'll see if they're smart or not.
Back in State Line, Nevada, the staff of the Harvey Casino were stretching in the morning light, grabbing their bland coffees and stale bagels from the employee lounge, and getting ready to settle in for what would be another typical day of running the casino.
How'd you know it was bland?
It always is in the employee lounge.
Okay.
Because who takes care to make sure that the coffee's fresh?
The employees?
Not always.
Okay.
You'd have to have a type A like me there. Getting it done.
Gotcha.
Fresh coffee.
Still bagels.
You know the bagels weren't fresh. Anyway.
Do you know that?
Yeah, because they're just coming in, so the night shift, if they were fresh for them, the bagels would be stale for the morning shift that's just walking in.
Okay.
Stupid. Okay. Anyway, the security member from the graveyard shift, Bob Vinson, noticed the large steel box that came out of nowhere with an envelope laying on the ground next to it. This had not been there 20 minutes ago when he was making his rounds. The hair on the back of his neck stood up in alarm. He alerted the head of security, Simon Caban, who...
Security Simon,
and he was a big dude. He was a Vietnam vet that used to be a helicopter door gunner, if I can speak.
Wow, so...
That's a crazy job.
A grade A badass.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
That was not for the faint of heart, I'm sure.
Yeah, and on this podcast, we love veterans. He's a veteran. Our whole family is veterans. I'm the only non-military. So, I mean, you're not as cool as a Vietnam helicopter door gunner.
No. You know that
So
Parliament cigarettes, they have that little piece missing from the filter that was designed so that Vietnam gunners and stuff could, like, champ it in their teeth while they're...
That is awesome.
Yeah, and then you can also... Cocaine You just scoop a little Coke. It's a perfect little
Anyways,
promise.
that's probably what he was doing when he was in Nam.
Yeah.
At that point, several calls had been made to the staff to the local Douglas County Sheriff Department and the fire department. Caban leaned down to pick up the envelope, but couldn't quite read what it said, so he leaned on the steel box to kind of squint and read it.
Mm-hmm.
It was then that he realized what was in the very big box. Bill Jonke of the FBI was called to the scene. When he arrived, evacuation had already begun taking place, and he was given the rundown. The hotel was at full capacity, so the parking lot was full of sleepy patrons rubbing their eyes in confusion, children running around with no shoes, women with their hair rollers lazily stacked on their head. Inside, the staff was busy emptying the $2 to $3 million in cash the casino usually kept on hand and trying to figure out how to lock the doors to an establishment that has been open for 24 hours a day for the last 17 years. That's a big task.
I love your details, like lazily stacked.
Yeah.
Their hair rollers. I didn't hear anything after that. I was like, how do you know?
How do you know they did that?
How do you know it was lazily editorializing?
Sleepy little hair rollers, and you go to bed, and they're just kind of like haphazardly stacked on their heads. It's painting an image. Did you get the image?
Yeah, I got the image.
Good, then I did my job.
Got the image. So they're like, how do we close down a casino
That's never been closed.
that's never been... I would say, hey, everyone get out. There's a bomb. I feel like that would be the way to do it.
Right, but I'm saying like they didn't know how to lock the doors so people couldn't walk back in, but...
Oh, I see.
I don't know. So Captain Danahill of the county fire department met Jonke outside the phone exchange in the building where they assessed the bomb. And boy, was this bomb a sight to see. Perfectly welded seams. The design, the paint job, everything was beautiful. They were literally like in awe. They were fangirls of this bomb.
Like, I know that this is dangerous, but respect, you know?
Yeah, nobody on site had seen anything like it, and they were absolutely stumped. Then they read the extortion letter. Extensive research started on the bomb. This thing could level the whole building and even severely damage Harrah's Casino across the street if it detonated where it stood.
1,000 pounds of dynamite.
Yeah.
I feel like that would... I don't know, I'm not a bomb expert, but like, that's big.
Well,
you know, that's
and
huge.
stick around because I have live footage of the whole area. So you can see like where the bomb sat, where the building was, and what damage it could have done.
Gotcha.
Or it did do.
Did do.
Jonke even predicted with the other experts on site that there was no way this bomb would be able to hold 1,000 pounds of TNT. He was like, that idiot, like this could never. I'm a bomb expert. And then they brought X-ray machines in, and they were like, holy crap, this thing has 1,000 pounds of TNT.
Shnikes.
They were like, how did this guy do this? This is crazy. Okay?
So the fangirling continues.
And it just keeps rolling.
Like, I hate that he did this, but wow, he really did great.
Yeah, they had a chilling realization when that happened. They were like, oh, we should take this seriously.
This guy means business.
This isn't wires in a trash can with someone asking to, drop it in the trash and be in their scuba gear. Like, this dude's real. He's going to hurt people.
Speaking of, Carl, do you remember our very own father made a fake bomb when he was a little child in Tennessee?
Yeah, and he put like batteries and wires and taped them all up together, and he put it in a bank.
Yeah.
And like, I forgot about that. Our dad is a bomber too.
What the hell, Dad?
It was fake. He was like 9. And
Yeah, I guess it was just like for fun.
Yeah, what was the reason? Hey, Dad,
Hey, Dad,
why'd you do that?
I know you're a Maccabee. Please.
What?
Did you get money? Did you get
What?
jail time?
I think he put it like in the elevator and then just went
Yeah.
on his bike home or something. And wow.
Whistling like kids in the 60s and 70s did.
Yeah, with the card in the
Yeah,
back of
card
the.
in the spokes.
Yeah. And he said he was like, because he saw like helicopters and like police and stuff.
Well, yeah.
So our dad is like Big John.
Big Dad. Big Dog. Big Dad.
Okay.
All right.
So they were staring at the cold hard steel of the largest improvised bomb in U.S. history. And time was ticking down. Within 2 hours, word of the bomb had spread, and news trucks and explosive specialists from all around the country flocked to the scene. Rubbernecking crowds filled the portioned off parking lot that was like safe to be around, that 1,200 feet away. From all the sides of the casino. Scientists from Maryland and North Carolina joined the group to help as well
Maryland?
as Maryland?
Just
Maryland.
Maryland.
Maryland and North Carolina. They joined the group to help as well as the nuclear emergency support team.
Yeah.
By 3 p.m., they pushed everyone back to a quarter-mile cordons, and Highway 50 was blocked in both directions. The bomb team examined the device every single way that they could. They photographed it, dusted it for fingerprints, x-rayed it, scraped it for paint samples. They scanned it for radiation with a Geiger counter and used electronic listening devices and stethoscopes. They strained again and again to hear any sign of a noise coming from the inside of the bomb. By 10 p.m., Jonke and his supervisor went over to the Sahara Tahoe Casino where Harvey Gross was temporarily housed because they needed him to make a decision about the ransom. And time was running out. He asked them what their thoughts were, and they all agreed the best place for the bomb to go off would be right where it sits, for safety reasons. No lives would be lost, and even if they gave the ransom, it would take 4 men to move the bomb, all whose lives could be lost if one thing went wrong.
True.
So to detonate it in place would be the best. Once Harvey understood that, he said, and I quote, "There's no way I'm paying these sons of bitches any money. Blow up the bomb."
We don't negotiate with terrorists, dude.
We don't negotiate.
Yeah. Harvey. Bad to the bone.
Yeah. Harvey Gross. With the most.
Good for you, dude.
Yeah, I would have said the same thing regardless. I'd have been like,
You ain't gonna threaten me?
I'm going to have insurance on my casino. And if my employees were moving $2 to $3 million in cash out, that was just my standby money at the casino for payouts, how much more money do I probably have is what you should be asking yourself. And I'd be fine with it.
Yeah.
And I have insurance, I'm sure. In this scenario, I'd like to think I'm insured.
And I really want to see Big John go down. Criminal.
Yeah. Big John arrived back at his house, free of Terry and Bill, and alerted his sons to get ready for the payoff. Big John ran through the list of equipment they needed: the 2 strobe lights he'd stolen from the Lake Tahoe airport, 2 large green canvas bags for the money, ski masks, jackets, a .35 revolver, and a .22 and a .303 rifle. .303? A box of ammunition for the rifle and a 12-volt motorcycle battery Jimmy had brought back from work, which would power the strobe lights. They loaded the gear into the back of Big John's golden Volvo, and they drove up the mountain and waited. Their plan was to wait till the pilot landed, overpower him at gunpoint, and take his money. Then they'd escape to Europe to launder the cash. But things started going wrong immediately for these idiots because they left the battery pack they needed back in Clovis, like back at Big John's house, which is like the main way they're signaling the helicopter to do the drop. So they're idiots.
Dope.
Couldn't find one gas station on the mountainside to try to buy like a battery or something from. So they drove all the way back down to 130 miles away, and it was now past 11 o'clock, almost midnight. They got back in their car and headed back up the mountain to prepare for the drop. Amazingly, though, the Burgess messed up the drop, and the FBI was also late for the drop. So even if the Burgess would have been up there, the FBI messed it up too.
Wow.
They had flown the wrong path up the mountainside, and fumbled the pickup. They had strict notes to land at 2300 hours, wait under the light by the gate in the chain link fence, and further instructions would arrive via the taxi, if you remember from the extortion note, or the payphone near the fence at 12:10 a.m. Cook was late, though.
I was just going to say,
There's a little moth in here.
there's a cute little moth in here.
Oh
But
my gosh. Just killed it with my fingertip.
how macabre.
I think I did.
No, I want to believe it's alive still.
I did.
But, so it sounds like everything's getting flubbed up on the drop. From
Yeah.
the feds to the Neds.
I can't touch anything with this hand now.
Okay.
So they decided to just go to the payphone that they were supposed to go to after they dropped the money for further instructions. When he landed, he found the payphone. The phone rang immediately. The man answered with a southern voice and said, "Hello." Cook said, "Hello." The man said, "Who's this?" And Cook was like, "Who's this?" Because that's weird for a ransom call. He said, "Okay, your instructions are under the table in front of you." And then his southern accent vanished, and he said, "You have 3 minutes." So he tried to
Like disguise.
disguise his voice. Sorry, brain fart. And then he was like, "Fuck it, you have 3 minutes."
Brain fart. Get it.
So Cook felt something taped under the table, and the note read, "To the pilot, I remind you again, strictly follow these orders." And so Cook hurried back to the helicopter and handed the piece of paper to Del Rowley, because remember, he is this 5'9" slender man in the back of the helicopter hiding.
Yeah. They got a stowaway.
Yeah, he's still tucked behind in the seat with his submachine gun, like, ready to go. So Cook prepared for takeoff while Rowley read him the instructions. Follow Highway 50 west in a straight line. Stay below 500 feet. After 15 minutes, start looking for a strobe light on your right. Land facing south. 200 feet away, you'll find further instructions nailed to the trunk of a tree. Cook did what the note told him, but as he reached the 15-minute mark, he began circling to look around. Rowley's basic orders at this time were to protect the pilot. On the ground, Big John and Jimmy listened for the telltale thump of the chopper blades, and once they thought they heard it, they took the cables and turned the strobe light on for half a minute, thinking that they were going to be there. But it wasn't the helicopter, it was no one. And it was a really cold night, and their ski jackets weren't providing the warmth they'd hoped for, so Big John took some of the bullets and emptied the gunpowder and made a fire. So they were just chilling around a fire waiting for
That's kind of comical to me.
the helicopter. Everything they do is funny to me.
Yeah. Kind of like just bumbling around.
Miles and miles away in the wrong place. Cook, Rowley, and the SWAT team just circled around, just so wrong, so far from where they were supposed to be. And they eventually gave up and went back
Excuse me.
to Tahoe with the 3 bags of the scrap paper and
I
the
hear
heavy.
that's beautiful country out there.
Huh?
I hear that's beautiful country out there.
Oh, yeah.
Just
They would know.
Yeah. They were out
just-
there just enjoying
Yeah.
the night.
Yeah.
You know?
So they went back to Tahoe with the 3 bags of scrap paper and the heavy weight of defeat on their conscience. At the bottom of the mountain, at the pickup site, sat Joan, that girlfriend of his. Big John's girlfriend and Johnny. When they heard on the radio there had been some confusion and the FBI still wanted to make the ransom drop, Joan and Johnny, drove up the mountain to retrieve Jimmy and Big John. Somehow, going up there, Joan crashes her car, smacks her head up, her nose is bleeding, she's really injured, and the car was totaled. So Johnny had his car, Joan had her car, she crashed, flew off the road going up to pick them up, hit a tree, broke her nose. Johnny kept going and left her there and picked up his dad and brother.
Wow.
And then on the way back, he picked her up.
What craziness.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
They dropped her off and left her at the hospital, drove to a payphone, and called into the police line. Big John told them, flip switch number 5 and wait for further instructions. 5 was a dummy switch, so it was just to buy them more time. Danny Danahill, great name, back at the bomb, was starting to get nervous by Wednesday morning. He still had a dozen questions, like where was the timer, like when was it going to run out, how reliable were the batteries, how reliable was this dude that made it, how good was he at wiring, was he an expert or some nut job, like maybe he's just fooling us, but this bomb could go off any second.
Yeah, like you don't know.
Yeah, you never know. At 9:30 a.m. on Wednesday, the experts gathered in the Sahara command post for a routine or like a roundtable meeting to converse. That's my son. They threw out the idea that they could come up with like any ideas to try to neutralize the bomb. Flood the bomb with liquid nitrogen, encase it in concrete, pick it up and carry it to a nearby golf course. That one's stupid.
Ruin a perfectly nice golf course.
Right. Pick it up, carry it to a golf course. Finally, Leonard Wolfson, a civilian consult to the Navy, suggested using more explosives to defeat the bomb with a linear-shaped charge, a precisely formed piece of plastic explosion encased in a brass jacket. It would create 2 explosive planes of hot gas collapsing on one another to form a line, a fine jet, and a pyrotechnic cutting tool.
Oh, yeah. Navy.
This could disable the bomb by severing the fusing mechanisms. The technicians could see the top box from the explosives they believed filled the lower box. So they thought that this would be better. Anyway, Wolfson explained that the time between the detonation of the charge and the gas jet striking the box would be half a millisecond. If the bomb contained only low voltage circuitry, it would be decapitated before the electrical impulses from the battery could reach the detonators and trigger the dynamite. It was risky, but it was the best idea they had.
Nice. I like that it's a Navy man.
Yeah. Well, he's a civilian contractor for the Navy, so he's probably still a bit like an ex-Navy. Because a lot of contractors are
Vets.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Well, and that's just that's the Navy way. Fight fire with fire.
Yeah, that is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
By noon, it was unanimous. They were going to go with Wolfson. With his plan.
Well, yeah, that's because that plan is pretty badass sounding.
Yes.
So.
Danny Hill had been awake for 30 hours at this point and was really tired and really scared as he walked up to the device and added the mechanism for their plan. In Fresno, at the exact same time, Big John decided it was time to make another call at 3:30 p.m. The State Line Sheriff's Office announced the 15-minute warning to clear the area. The deputy made the final call as Danny Hill met with Carl Paulson around the corner. Under the hood of Paulson's truck, He touched the firing lead in the truck battery and said, "Fire in the hole." It was 3:46. So Big John called at 3:30 for another money drop.
Mm-hmm.
They had exploded the bomb at 3:46.
Wow.
So within 15 minutes.
Dang.
Concrete and plasma rained down from the sky.
Plasma?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know. It was like cloudy with a chance of meatballs. Like everything.
Have a chance of plasma. That's insane.
Fragments of glass, wood, and metal sprayed across the sides of Harvey's as Big John's bomb vaporized in a superheated expanding gas. One big pressure wave radiated outward for more than 14,000 feet per second, tearing through the second floor, flattening walls, crumbling doors, and shattering windows. A cloud of white furrowed out from the second floor like a noxious gas, enveloping the parking lot and the building.
Wow.
Then,
so the bomb
this
worked.
Bomb.
Bomb.
Then, behind the safety of the barricades, the cloud swooshed past the onlookers in a violent gust. That's like, like on movies.
Yeah.
Danny Hill and Paulson lay in wait on the warm asphalt for the debris and falling pieces of the roof to reach their final destinations on the ground. Inside the casino, the absolute mayhem started to frizzle out. Crashing floors and ceilings collapsed. An entire empire crumbling to the ground over a fragile ego of a man long gone to his gambling addiction, and everything Harvey and his late wife Llewellyn built was lost to the earth.
Wow.
From a payphone...
Good writing, sis.
Thank you.
I like that. Yeah.
From a payphone, Big John rings in, not knowing the havoc he just wreaked. He doesn't even know his bomb exploded. Not knowing the havoc he just wreaked on State Line, Nevada. He tells the teller, "If you still want the exchange, I'll call back in an hour." On their way to where they were going for the exchange to make the last call, they heard it on the radio in the car that the bomb exploded. And Big John said, "Well, I don't have anything to live for now." Because remember, he's dying of abominable cancer.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, that didn't work.
Sucks to suck, Big John. It was a stupid idea anyway. It was really cool, but not.
They say the house always wins. And the casino was like,
nice.
I'm going to call that bluff. They're like, screw it. We'll blow the damn bomb.
You didn't have good enough poker face.
Yeah.
So the explosion had blasted a spherical hole through the middle of the hotel, 60 feet in diameter in the foot-thick concrete, with a matching 50-foot across hole right above that. The void stretched all the way to the 5th floor and all the way down to the basement. Webs of twisted rebar tangled across broken drywall and pieces of metal window frames. Busted pipes spouted water all over the remnants of the Harvey Casino, soaking it everywhere. Toilets hung on ledges and teetered towards the cavernous precipice. Precipices?
Precipice?
Precipice? TV sets and telephones dangled, still holding onto their cables over the abyss. Somewhere deep inside the darkened, empty carcass of the building came the distant sound of the whirring machinery, still drawing power from an external generator that nobody had thought to turn off. I'm just thinking of the ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
Like the slot noises, just still whirring in the basement after the explosion.
That's funny.
Yeah. The FBI was now on full alert looking for who created this bomb. Tips were flooding the call lines, many leading to nothing. But some were beginning to put puzzle pieces together that would lead the police to Big John. But not quickly. Staff that had seen Terry and Bill in passing bringing in the bomb, several witnesses saying, these are calls, like staff members that saw Terry and Bill, several witnesses saying they saw the white van in the parking lot of the hotel, but no one could remember license plates. 2 days after the explosion, the FBI could start to do more thorough forensics on the bomb. sweeping it for prints, DNA, anything that would link to the creator, like from the insides that they couldn't get to before. Because remember, Jonky just did that class where he was taught how to thoroughly investigate after the explosion.
Yeah.
So.
Junkie smart man. Learned.
Meanwhile, a tip came in from Gerald Domenico, the manager of the Ballyho Motel, the one where they stayed at when they...
Gerald? Gerald?
Gerald? What did I say?
You said Gerald.
Gerald. Gerald.
Are you trying to get fooled? All fancy.
Gerald. Stupid.
Yeah.
Gerald Domenico. Gerald. The manager of the Ballyho Motel stated that 2 men with a white van checked in there the day before the bombing and was really rude to their staff and needed jumper cables around 4 a.m. And then they abruptly checked out. Within 10 days, they had compiled a complete profile of the suspects. They followed them, wiretapped their phones. What the agents heard and saw only confirmed their suspicions. With full confidence, they went and arrested them and made a press announcement, only to figure out it was the wrong man. Idiots.
Wow.
Well, not idiots, just silly gooses.
Yeah, just a couple of silly geese.
They even offered a reward of $200,000 to information that led to the actual arrest of the correct extortionists. With Agent Yablonsky, I love that name.
Yeah.
Stating under normal conditions, a person would sell his own mother down the river for $200K. So these people must have a really tight-knit group who's not talking. Mm-hmm. Which is true. They're family.
Yeah.
And Terry and Bill are like, no, not us. Like, we don't want to be a part of this. 2 weeks passed and still nothing. But they were still taking in evidence for 2 whole weeks. We're taking evidence and getting it processed, trying to find anything that would link to the bombers.
Wow.
They received a tip from someone saying they saw someone at the payphones that made the call to flip switch 5. With a white Dodge tradesman. They ran the plates of this person and it found it belonged to John Waldo Burgess, which is Johnny. Little Johnny.
His middle name is Waldo?
Yeah, I know, right? I actually like that name.
That's kind of cool.
Where's Waldo?
Where is he?
Building a bomb.
Yeah.
With his dad. So when the cops came knocking on his door, Big John answered, and they were like, "We're investigating this. Where is this person?" He's like, "Oh, you don't want me. You want my son."
What a
Coward.
piece of turd.
If you're on deathbed, why would you turn in your kid?
Zero cool points for Big John.
Yeah.
Also, it was your idea.
Yeah, you idiot.
Little Johnny didn't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
In the following weeks after the bombing, Johnny had gone back to his typical routine, smoking weed every day, working on a roofing company. He did sell his van almost immediately after the bomb went off. And other than that, he went back to a completely normal life until he returned home one day and to find the FBI knocking on his front door. Big John had assured Johnny that the FBI had no evidence. All he had to do was stick to the story they had concocted about how the van was in South Tahoe around the time of the bomb was delivered. They were going to make an elaborate story about like, oh, I was going to go buy weed and my friend picked me up and I left my van there and because the battery died and I had nothing to do with it. I've never done anything. But then he switched the story and said, nope, he's never been to South Lake Tahoe. He's never let anyone borrow his van. He has no idea why it was spotted there or anything. And the agents were like, okay, well,
which one is it?
Your story sounds ridiculous.
Yeah.
By November, the case had turned into one of the largest and most expensive criminal investigations the FBI had ever conducted and still had no results.
I'm amazed That they're still like
getting away with
getting
it.
away with it. Yeah.
Yeah. By December, the investigation was scaled back. They reduced the manpower and the Bureau's presence in the area. By May of 1981, so May of next year, bomb went off in August. Now this is May of 1981. The Harvey Wagon Wheel Casino had its ribbon cutting ceremony and formally reopened the doors for business after a staggering $18 million in repairs and security updates.
Wow.
It's a lot of millions.
Yeah.
The reward money for the bombers was upped to $500,000 for anyone that could tell them. In early June,
I'm amazed that like the employee guys wouldn't just be like, "Yo, it was Big John." I would, especially if you
were kind of tricked into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They must have been just terrified that they would also go to jail or something. I don't know.
Yeah, because how can you tell the story without exploiting yourself?
Implicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in early June 1981, they received a call that would help their case. Danny DiPieri, he was the night foreman at the Glacier Brothers candy and tobacco warehouse in town. He said he knew exactly who had bombed Harvey's before it ever happened, and it's because of a girl he dated. And she told him every single detail about it. Her name was Kelly Cooper. She was Johnny's ex-girlfriend who had broken up with him after he had went and stolen the dynamite with his dad. Because she was there when Jimmy showed up knocking on his door saying Big John needs help building a bomb and laid out the plans. And she overheard it from the kitchen while the brothers were talking, so she knew about it. And then as soon as he stole the dynamite, she was out. She was like, "You're actually doing it? You're done."
Wow.
So then he was dating her, this woman. This guy, the whistleblower.
Interesting.
Yeah. So he was like, "I knew all about it." She was Johnny's ex, yeah. So this is when the FBI learned everything, and their sights were now honed in on Big John. The cops started asking him questions almost every day, knocking on his door and having full-time tails on Jimmy and Johnny.
Full time.
Full time. So they were watched round the clock.
Yeah.
And Johnny even ended up making like funny little nicknames for the police officer or the investigators that were trailing him. And I guess they found it really funny. Like he was really funny and easygoing about it or whatever. And
sounds like he's having a good time. That's crazy.
He's a silly little goose. But they would harass Big John like every day. They truly didn't have any evidence on him, so they would knock on the door and they'd show him a picture of the bomb and they'd be like, "Hey, why do you think the bomber put switches on this side? And like, what do you think this could have been used? Like, what do you think could have been used to cover these screw holes right here? What do you think he would have done?" Trying to like get his ego going, like, well, yeah. I'm such a good inventor that I would have done this. And he's like, so Big John said, "Well, can I keep this picture?" And they said no. And he goes, "Well, there were probably screw holes there, and he probably used something like Bondo or something like that." Which is like feeding right into what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Getting him to talk about his own bomb. With the boredom from obviously not being able to do gambling, he began tinkering again. And inventing, particularly a new style turkey feeder that had a very clever mechanism on it that the turkeys fed and emptied like when their food was all gone and they emptied it. Pressure plates that switched and activated would release more food down into their bowls so that the farmer who hired him to make this wouldn't have to go out and feed his turkey and his animals as much. This pressure plate mechanism was the exact same style pressure plates that was used in the bomb. So the FBI was like, "Sir, You're outing yourself.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Also, as soon as the first bomb's dust had settled, Big John was already discussing making a new bomb and begun secret work on one. He had 700 pounds of dynamite that he had buried on his property that he was going to use in his second extortion attempt. The turkey feeders were made for a family called the Ferencs, and they refused to pay him for his work because they said that the turkey feeders were malfunctioning. They didn't do their jobs. Now, on your way to this farm, you could only get there to and from a small bridge. And so Big John got really irritated and he blew up their bridge with some of his dynamite.
I knew that was coming, and I'm happy that I was correct.
Yeah.
Blew up the bridge.
So eventually, though, they got an arrest warrant for Johnny, and investigators told him, think of your mother. Like, she didn't raise you to be a liar. She wanted you to be a better man than this. We know your mother would want more than this for you. And that was literally all it took for him to tell the entire story.
Crazy.
So Big John was shortly arrested after that, and they had, Jimmy folded. As soon as Johnny folded, Jimmy folded. And he's like, yeah, this is the story.
This is how it happened.
And so Big John was arrested, and he said if Johnny would have never talked, they would have never caught me because they did not have evidence on me. They just had speculation. So without Johnny and Jimmy confessing to everything, they would have never got me.
Maybe you should have been nicer to your kids.
Yeah. Chris Ronay and the explosive lab actually built a replica of the bomb for court to kind of show it and everything. It took 3 men almost a full month to finish the replica. They were in trial for 4 years, and Big John went through 12 different lawyers, and still never admitted to a single thing. He actually would die in prison at the age of 74. I almost said 1974. From cancer. And they tried paying him and everything to replicate the bomb exactly how he made it so that they would know and everything, and he never did.
Just a stubborn old man.
Yeah. So
crazy.
He never got to do his second attempt. He did go to jail. The boys actually didn't get, I don't know if they actually got, I didn't actually get to read on if the boys got jail time for their part in this case or anything. I think they cut a deal, though, for giving up Big John. So that's the story of the Harvey bombing. I'm going to have pictures. I have live video of the explosion. I've got damage. I've got pictures of Johnny and Jimmy with the FBI agents, playing friends.
They seem like cool kids.
Yeah, they do.
Just, a bad dad.
Can you imagine if one of your parents was like, you're going to help me bomb a casino?
Yeah. Big John, crazy dude. Well, that was that. That's part 2. The conclusion. Died in prison. No one was killed.
Okay, I thought I turned my ringer off, but my son keeps texting me. Yeah. So another thing is we're going to start posting these up on YouTube, and you can see them on Spotify. And you can see special episodes like our game 2 Truths and a Lie, which is a really fun game where we tell you 3 cases of the craziest crime stories you'll hear. And you have to figure out which one of them is fake and which 2 are true.
And no cheating.
Yeah. We have a murder mystery game. All of those are up on our Patreon. And you can subscribe and get access to those things, as well as special merchandise, our private Discord where you can talk directly to Jake and I, and a lot of other really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So you'll have to check that out.
Check it out. Our sweet little Macabees.
Ticky, ticky.
I was petting you.
Oh.
Not you, the Macabees. I like.
Oh.
Yes. So.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.